What's up guys, my name is eso and welcome back to the channel. Now for those of you that don't know me, this channel is pretty much based on creating Skyrim and Fallout content. So in this video I am reviewing a copy of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch. And I know what many of you are already probably thinking. Bethesda, why have you been recycling the same game for 6 years now? But at least now with the Switch release we have the opportunity to play Skyrim on the go. But just how good is that experience going to be? I think there are two really important things most people are looking for with this Switch port. Firstly, how well does one of the biggest and most successful RPGs play on the Nintendo Switch? The game is huge and full of limitless possibilities, different quests, characters and unique weapons and armors to find. But how does it perform on the Switch? Secondly, does this introduce enough new adventures or features to attract returning players back to the game? These are the two main questions I hope to answer for you guys in this review. And to be honest with you, I do love the game, but I'm a very harsh critic when I have to pay $60 for a game that was released in 2011. But then I have been playing this game consistently since 2011, and I think that does speak for itself. And by the way guys, I'm actually going to be giving away a copy of Skyrim on Nintendo Switch as well as Nintendo Switch console to one of you guys. So if you want to enter this competition, just click the link at the top of the description and that will take you here to my Discord server. Once you are here, just look on the left hand menu here and go to the competition section. Click on this and all you need to do is type in ESO into this chat, press enter, and then I will enter you into the competition. Now to actually win, you will need to be active on the server and join in the other chat room. For example, I'm also hosting a Skyrim fight club with the new multiplayer mod that's coming out. Anyway, let's get back to the review. So the Nintendo Switch version of Skyrim will include all previously released downloadable contents, and that includes Hearthfire, which allows you to build your own house, Dawnguard, which basically adds a few new locations and also adds a vampire based quest line into the game. And then lastly we've got the Dragonborn DLC, which adds a few new larger places to explore, as well as a new storyline, new dungeons and lots of other things. Graphically speaking though, Skyrim has always been a beautiful game. The Switch version is a combination of Skyrim Special Edition, released last year, and the original Skyrim, which was released in 2011. But what are the key differences? Well, you will mainly notice things like less foliage, in the form of thick grass and dense forests. Bethesda have done a good job to still maintain that feel of the different areas and holds of Skyrim and the different climates, represented by the different tree types and grass types, like the tundras around Whiterun or the beautiful forests of Falkreath, but they're definitely going to be a bit barer than their console counterparts. The Switch also has the same colour pop we see from the remastered version of the game, and this gives Skyrim a warm sort of vibrant feeling, which is actually quite refreshing. I did find though, if you inspect some of the textures more closely, they're definitely less sharp and some are even a little bit blurry in areas. But considering we're playing this on a 6-inch display, it's not something that I even really noticed or ever bothered me that much. If you do however plug this into your TV, it's going to look pretty tragic next to the console version of the game. It does actually up the quality a bit when you do plug it into your TV, but it's not great, okay? But to be honest, you're not buying Skyrim on the Switch to play on your TV. Handheld mode is where it's at, and that's what Bethesda have tried to do. And I would say they really succeeded in this. I'm actually pretty impressed. One thing I know a lot of you are going to be asking and thinking about, and it was the main thing I was worried about, is the loading screens. The loading screens are actually really quick. I was very impressed at how fluidly the game runs. Obviously we did have that issue on the older consoles and even some of the newer ones when you would play a character for 200 plus hours and then the loading screens would start to get longer. I haven't actually tested that out yet, but just generally I find the loading screens are very impressive and very quick. Much faster than they were on PS3 and Xbox 360. The gameplay is very smooth. The game constantly runs between 30 and 45 FPS on average. Even when there is a lot going on the screen with big battles or dragons covering the ground in fire, I found that the Switch can still manage a solid 30 FPS. Very rarely does it drop below this, unless you really force it to. The only time I experienced a drop in frames was when I was using the duplication glitch to spawn in tons of items. But generally, when you're playing the game normally, you should be absolutely fine. I did find the draw distance to actually be pretty annoying. Basically, when you're running around Skyrim, if you look midway into the distance, you'll see that things like foliage, textures, and sometimes even enemies will only render in at certain distances. This was done so the Switch didn't have to render so much stuff at one time, but due to the way that this has been handled, it can sometimes appear rather distracting to see things like popping in and out of existence in the distance, and it's especially noticeable with the grass. In my experience of going between console and PC, where this is also an issue but to a much lesser degree, I did find that I do get used to it after a while, but it's something that will probably annoy you a little bit if you're coming from even consoles or PC. But if that's what it takes to get smooth, enjoyable, portable Skyrim gameplay, I think it's a small price to pay. That said though, there are still a lot of glitches that I tested out and they all still work. Like for example the duplication glitch or the merchant chest exploits and lots of other things I'm not going to go into detail about in this video, but none of that stuff has been patched. These have all existed pretty much since 2011 and they've not been fixed by Bethesda. It doesn't really take away from the game, there's nothing game breaking there. If anything, they're just fun little cheats that you can use but you don't need to. In terms of battery life, which let's face it is extremely important when we're talking about huge RPG open world games like this. I've only tested this a little bit, but I find the brightness you play at with your Switch to be the main contributing factor. At full brightness, you will find that playing Skyrim for 1 hour will drain about 40% of your battery. This, in my opinion, is terrible. Obviously you can endure playing with reduced brightness and in flight mode to prolong the battery life slightly, but I think this is just shockingly bad. According to Nintendo, the Switch's portable battery life will range from 2.5 hours to 6 hours, depending on the graphical requirements of the game being played. Obviously for things like Skyrim and Zelda, it's even below the lower end of that spectrum. And the entire point of Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch is to play it on the go. So I think it's almost necessary for you guys to invest in a battery pack for your Nintendo Switch if you're going to be playing Skyrim. I'm going to link some battery packs down below in the description that I know are good and high quality products. Because one does not simply play Skyrim for a few hours. Madness! That said though, I think something does need to be said for the controls, because if you're playing Skyrim on the Switch for hours on end, and I assume some of you may have already experienced this while playing Zelda, well the Switch is just not that ergonomic when you're sitting there playing for hours on end. So holding it for long periods of time can sometimes feel a little bit awkward, and sometimes your hands can cramp up a little bit after hours of play, so it's just something you should bear in mind. Obviously I know that they do have controllers for the Switch and little add-ons you can use to make it more ergonomic, and if that works for you that's fine. I'm just saying that's something that you may want to consider. But apart from that, Skyrim feels very much at home on the Nintendo Switch. It feels like it was just meant to be, and I think Bethesda have gone to a lot of effort with Nintendo as well to make this happen, and I really appreciate it. You can also, by the way, detach your Joy-Con controllers to play the game in a different way. In combat, you can actually physically wave your arms about like a fucking madman to flail your sword at the enemies, or at least flail it in their rough direction. I noticed that close combat on the Switch is a bit of a nightmare when you're using the controllers like this. There's actually a little bit of a delay with the sword combat. After I swung my hand, it would then do it in the game. So it was very sluggish and cumbersome to use, but it is quite a fun thing to use until the novelty wears off and you just go back to playing Skyrim like normal. The bow, however, is pretty damn satisfying to use, because you can physically draw back the bow using the controllers as you would like a physical bow, and then you release the trigger and you fire an arrow and you draw back again. I really did like the bow gameplay simply for using the Joy-Con controllers like this. I'm not sure if they just expected people who were playing Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch to be just bad at archery, but they seem to have almost quadrupled the amount of arrows that enemies have on their bodies after you kill them. We even found someone with 115 arrows on their corpse. Who needs that many arrows? That was on one guy. So you're going to have so many arrows, even if you're terrible at archery, I don't think you'll have a problem. Magic is very similar and it's pretty fun as well. Once again, it's quite intuitive. You just aim your fireballs, shock spells, or whatever else you're using, and it's just a bit of fun really. But by far my favourite part of using the Joy-Con controllers was the lockpicking system. It feels very real to be able to like delicately adjust the locks physically with your hands. And the controllers even vibrate when you're about to break a pick. So it's quite an immersive like roleplay way of playing the game, which I really enjoyed. But ESO, was anything new actually added to the Switch version to bring back the older players? Well, apart from the graphical changes and the other things I've already mentioned, one collection of armor was added, and I will talk about the potential of mods at the end of the video. But apart from that, Bethesda did add one armor set into the game. They decided to actually add Zelda's armor and weapons into Skyrim, which would make any lore fanatic cringe, but personally, I actually think it's quite a fun idea, and you don't need to get it if you don't want to. But there are two ways to obtain this for yourself if you're interested. Firstly, the Switch has something called an Amiibo feature. You basically tap a Zelda Amiibo figure, which is something you can buy from the Nintendo Switch shop online, and you tap that on your Switch and then you get the opportunity to activate it like an ability in-game. You can then select an area to drop a chest, and this chest will drop and you can then obtain Zelda's outfit. This includes Link's Champion's Tunic, the Highland Shield and his Master Sword, which do look rather out of place and a bit cartoony in the world of Skyrim. You can only drop a chest once per day, and usually it does contain like a random amount of loot, but there is a 20% chance that you will get either one of these 3 unique items in the chest. So you can basically just keep on doing this daily until you get the whole set. The armor and the weapons will also be level to your character's level when you obtain them. And of course, you can also upgrade the damage and the armor rating of these weapons as well. I've actually got a guide in the description which still works on how to get 1,000,000 damage with these weapons if you're interested. It's quite an advanced guide, but I'll link it down below. If you do not actually own an Amiibo figure like me, you can just collect the whole set from a chest at the top of the Throat of the World. You'll visit this area during the main quest line. It's at the very, very top of the mountain. So most of us know Skyrim already is an incredible game, and I feel like I don't really need to review Skyrim again. And if you're not sure about the game, just go ahead and watch any other video on my channel to sort of figure out if it's the kind of game that you would like. It's filled with tons of quests, rare items, weapons and armor, unique enchantments and spells, and lots of funny, memorable encounters to behold. But from this point on, it's literally just going to be my opinion on the game. The only reason I even brought Skyrim on the Switch was to review it for you guys. So thank you very much to those of you who do donate to me on Patreon. That's how I was able to afford to get the equipment I needed to make this video. That said, my copy of Skyrim on the Switch still hasn't arrived, so the footage you're seeing now was recorded by my friend Fangs. He is the only reason I was able to get this review out to you guys today so quickly. So definitely go and give his YouTube channel some love. I'll link it down below in the description. But I do find it hard to recommend a game that is 6 years old when it's being sold at $60. That's quite a lot of money. With literally no new real content in the game apart from Zelda's outfit and weapons and armor, I think that you'll find if you have played Skyrim before, at least as much as I have, you don't need it on the Nintendo Switch unless you really, really want to play it on the go. And I understand, like, it's quite a fun thing to be able to do to pass the time. If you've never played Skyrim though, my stance has always been you need to try it out, and you'll most definitely get your money's worth from the Switch version of the game, or any version of the game for that matter. As of right now though, there is no mod support for Skyrim on Nintendo Switch, and I highly doubt that it will be added. Bethesda have neither confirmed or denied whether it's possible or not. They have been asked, they've just said that they're not sure. One thing I will say though is that if mods actually do come to the Switch, I'm almost certain that it will only be the Creation Club content that is designed and created in collaboration with Bethesda. This is also the content that you must also pay for in addition to the game if you want to download a few extra add-ons. And to be honest guys, you're not missing out on a lot. A lot of this Creation Club content is extremely overpriced, and I don't really recommend it. If you want a good modding experience, an Xbox One is a good place to start if you're on a budget, but a PC is always going to give you the penultimate experience for modding Skyrim. And if you look at the description, I've got my ultimate PC build that I use for Skyrim, and I constantly update that list of parts there, so you can go ahead and buy it through Amazon. So if you're interested in that, check it out in the description below. I've left a bunch of Skyrim guides, like where to find the best quests, lots of interesting things to find, and also, if you're new to Skyrim, how you should start the game, and a few quick tips for you. You can find all those guides linked down below in the description. And guys, I really hope this video helped you guys make a decision on Skyrim on the Switch. Lots of you have also asked me to review Skyrim on virtual reality as well, or Skyrim VR. But I can't afford to invest in doing Skyrim VR just to make one review video or even a let's play. Like, I can't afford to do that. So I'm really sorry about that. I hope you guys understand, the situation on that. But thanks very much for watching, guys, and subscribing. eso will see you guys, loyal subscribers, in the next Skyrim video guide. Have a fantastic day, and goodbye.